So welcome to ISG's LinkedIn Live event where we are rethinking the skills conundrum. Our recent wide-angled research report looks at how skills impact people, productivity and place. So to really discuss some of the findings, I'm joined today by Paul Serkis, who's our expert in film and media, and Jane O'Leary, who's our sector expert in education. So why are we here today? I mean, we truly believe that the built environment has data that can provide confidence for organisations to invest and is an underused indicator of where we should be looking to develop the skills and talent pipeline. Early stage mapping of that investment can really look at physical assets and how we can start to revolutionise and provide a catalyst for a change in the skills agenda. An investment in the built environment helps us to identify new sectors, growth sectors and the talent required. And we all know already there's a hardwired link between construction and facilities and job creation, employment, skills and an economic health check. So it makes sense. So what we're talking about today is how do we take that data much earlier in the process to give confidence in the careers and career pathways that people should be considering for the future. We could use this data really intelligently to do a countrywide map of the skills that are needed now and in the future. And to me, that's really exciting. In the research, we looked at construction data, vacancy data, we interviewed parents, young people, we looked at government approach and policy, we looked at sector experts to make sure we really did have a holistic approach. And the results tell us that young people are driven by more things than remuneration. They're really looking at their skills and interests, they're looking at well-being, and they're looking at societal impact. So that gives many sectors an opportunity to really invent themselves and look at the language and how they change that conversation to attract the talent going forward. The data shows we need greater collaboration between employers, industry, education, parents and young people. And by unleashing this potential, we really can start to address inequality and be transparent in how we move things forward. We can really be smart in how we join the dots between people, place and productivity. So that's probably a really good time to introduce one of my guests, Paul Serkis. And probably, Paul, there's no wider success story than film on a global scale. So what we saw in the data, is that reflective of what you're seeing in your industry specifically?
Yeah, thanks, Zoe. I mean, firstly, the growth in the UK is exceptional in terms of the key markets and the ambitious plans that there are to grow some of these markets. Things like digital and tech, film and media, life sciences and education, they're all a key part of how the sectors grow and how we as a business have looked at the numbers and where we build places for people. In terms of what we're looking at, it's about creating jobs and places and connecting people and places for work. Key things that we've found in the reports are you've got people in the industry, people like David Putnam, film producer, people like Jenny Craig, who's head of the Buckinghamshire College Council as principal, and also Paul Golding, who's the chairman and interim chief executive of Pinewood Studios. All those voices are really strong and powerful in the media sector, and it's good that they're promoting the information that's out there to create more jobs. One of the things that we've been looking at in this report is the amount of money that's being spent on film and TV, high-end television, and the production numbers are going up and up. And if you think back to 2016, around about £2.5 billion was being spent just in the UK alone on film and TV production. That's rising consistently with the amount of content that's being put on our screens. So in terms of extra recording space, that's where we need to now focus. So whilst we'll have all these new studios come along, there'll be a skills shortage if we don't actually reflect that in the number of places for people to go and work. And one of the final things on this particular point, Zoe, is the government has literally just committed last week in one of their presentations about committing to creating 1 million jobs by 2030 for the film and creative sector. So it's all positive in terms of what they're doing there.
And Paul, building on that, how important do you think it is that we rethink our approach to skills to make sure we give confidence to that future investment?
There's a lot to commend on that. In terms of again, focusing on the global investments, back in 2009, there was 36,000 people working in the film and TV sector. That's now risen to 86,000 by 2020. So you can see the trajectory of number of places that are being created. And we need to continue and build upon that so that we provide those spaces for people to come and learn. If you look at how much the film sector contributes to the economy, back in 2019, 3.6 billion contributed to the GDP of the UK. So it's a really significant part of how much investment is needed and how much it contributes to the overall well-being and the UK growth in the film and media sector. What's interesting is you need to also think about the different roles that are available to people. So it's not just people in front of the camera like we're here sitting today. People sitting behind the camera, there's a lot of technician crews, makeup, hair, programming, graphic designs, but equally within the construction industry, you've got carpenters, plasterers, electricians. All of those skills are transferable. So when we're doing a construction project, if you're working on a film studios and building one, they can then go on to, once the studio is operational, and actually use those skills and be part of those film studios once they're built, and actually have a lasting career in the film and TV sector. So it's really encouraging and really positive. And everyone should look to this sector, being slightly biased, but everyone should look to this sector as being a really good way to get into it and have a long career in this industry.
I think, Paul, that's a good time to come to Jane. Talking about careers, you've had a vast experience in education, you've delivered net zero carbon schools with Welsh Government. What do we really need to do to start to change the skills agenda, and how can we start to change that narrative and engage wider stakeholders?
Yeah, thanks. So I think what's really important is that early engagement and collaboration between all parties. So it's about organisations coming together with educators, with pupils, with young people, with parents and carers, so that we can map those aspirations across the board to understand, what's needed where. And I think what we need to look at is that collaboration between the public and private sector. And we do that in parts, but it's usually around, a specific programme or a type of work rather than generally. So I think we need to work on those public-private partnerships, but look at that as a whole. And I think by looking at the work from the research, by unleashing that potential that all of this data has got, will give us a much more holistic view of what we need across the piece. And if we get that more holistic view, that helps us then with inequalities, because we should be able to map it more equally across. And I think also it'll help put confidence in that we're training and educating people in the right skills that are going to be needed for the future. So I think that's where the planning data and that visibility of that data will really help us to work with training bodies, to work with organisations, to make sure that we're doing that proactively to create those opportunities ready for the future. And I think if we don't do that, we run the risk that you get, local sort of wars over talent, that we get the increase in salaries because of that talent gap. But for me, more importantly, we also get that opportunity for that loss of that local benefit to society in that area.
And I think picking up a key point Jane raised there, Paul, you're a parent yourselves. We're basing the future skills demand on data, but that means parents are hugely influential in their career choices. So how can we equip parents and young people to make those brave, bold decisions around the skills agenda and maybe try something new?
Absolutely. Building on Jane's point, that there's an opportunity here where we have the ability to create one source of truth. And by that I mean, if we have a portal that is constantly being updated and constantly being updated with live information, that both students and, pupils, students and parents have that same access to that information, then it empowers people to actually make their own choices and give themselves the opportunity to look at where places are being built, to look at if they want to stay in their own area, if they want to move. They can actually see all the same information that we all see. And we can match that working with clients, working with educationalists to say, okay, in this particular location, these facilities will be built. These are the skills that will be matched to that facility. There's your opportunity, there's your empowerment. And it's really key when you look at some of the statistics that came out. A lot of the focus for individuals in the research that we did, a lot of the pupils and the students, their sort of feedback was that yes, they wanted to be well paid, they wanted to suit their interests, but also wanted to match their skills. And that's really important when you're looking as a young student to look at what you want to do in the future. And from a parent's point of view, they pretty much aligned with what they were saying there. The only other thing that the parents are adding is the long-term career aspirations and making sure that you have that legacy and that longevity if you go into a particular career, that probably when we were growing up, there was the lifelong careers that are always there. Sorry, just the final point I was going to say is that, you know, from what we've looked at and all the research, there's a really good opportunity for us to help the next generation and to shape the information that we create and to provide them with the ability to really, as I say, empower them to make their own decisions and be at the forefront of looking at this information and being able to say, this is the industry or this is the sector, this is what I want to go into, and here's my opportunity, and that's what I'm going to take. So it's really, really exciting.
And Jane, probably two things that Paul picked up on there was the skills and aspirations, and the research shows us that there are different things that inspire young people. How do we really dial into their aspirations? What can we do differently in that space?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. If we look at, you know, in healthcare, I think is a really good example of this. So healthcare had previously, you know, really struggled to communicate its value and to build trust. But I think, you know, over the last few years, we've all witnessed what a vital part that industry has played in, you know, meeting the challenges of COVID-19. And I think our data has shown that, hasn't it, that young people are attracted to those roles. And I think construction is in a similar situation. You know, we've been building things for thousands of years. So when you talk about construction, everybody's got a view of what construction is. And I think it's that familiarity that actually is having a negative impact on attracting talent to the industry. And in our survey, when we actually reframed that and presented it around a more realistic 21st century view of the industry, capturing the role and significance of things like social value, of sustainability, that whole debate around net zero carbon and decarbonisation, and around local communities, people became much more engaged, both the young people and parents and carers. So I think better articulation is really, really important, and this can have a profound impact on perception. And I think, for me, that's something that definitely should be an integral part of the rethinking skills conundrum, that we need to reframe what we are in construction.
So I think if we summarise all of that, the data we need already exists. It's just really difficult to understand and look at the value from that data because it's in really siloed structures. So we have an opportunity to create a platform that's much more transparent and available to everybody. And if we do that, that's when we start to empower local communities, local educators to really think about the skills talent of the future that's needed. I think we need to be transparent with our data because the research shows us that skills is as equal to people looking to invest and probably more of a confidence driver than financial incentives, which are a one-off. So we really need to think about how we make that transparent. And also, if we look at the research, it tells us that the young learners are attracted by how they can make a difference, use their skills and impact on society. So there's an opportunity there for lots of sectors to rethink about their message when they're engaging with the young people of the future and building their talent pipeline. So I hope that gives you a few ideas of how ISG was starting to join the dots between people, place and productivity. If you'd like a copy of your report, please visit our LinkedIn page. And if you've had any questions or would like to continue the conversation, please drop us a note or continue the chat. Thank you very much.